When a long day finally comes to an end and the noise of the world begins to fade, do you find yourself longing for something deeper? Not success, not praise, but a moment of stillness where your mind stops shouting and your heart is finally allowed to exhale. Have you ever laid quietly in the dark, listening to the ticking of the clock, and wondered, how can I truly find peace? Maybe you've walked through many relationships, many roads, many waves of disappointment and hope. Yet peace still feels like a shadow fading just as you try to hold it. The Buddha never promised a life without suffering. What he offered was something more powerful, the understanding that suffering can be seen, embraced, and gently released. In the deep silence of night, these teachings aren't just philosophy. They become breath. They soften your body. They become an invitation to come home to yourself with no judgment, no effort, just presence. In today's journey, we'll explore the core teachings of Buddhism, the Four Noble Truths, the Noble Eightfold Path, impermanence, non-self, and the invisible thread that connects all beings. These teachings aren't meant to be memorized, but to be lived, to flow through your breath, your sleep, your everyday steps. Welcome to Buddhism Seeds, where each video is a gentle refuge for the heart. If something in these words touches you, consider subscribing, liking, and sharing with someone who may need this quiet space too. Now allow your body to relax gently. Close your eyes and join me as we begin the journey back to your deepest stillness. Part 1. Tending to the Inner Garden. If I asked you, what does your mind feel like? How would you answer? Some might say it's a house filled with memories. Others say it's like the sky, where emotions drift by like clouds. But to me, the mind is a garden, a real garden, with soil, sunshine, blooming flowers, and yes, weeds growing in between. There are parts lush and peaceful, others tangled and overgrown. Some days bring nourishing rain, others are dry and cracking. And the most important truth, no garden is ever perfect forever, just like your mind. Inside your mind, there is kindness, gratitude, wisdom. Those are the flowers. But there's also anger, worry, craving, and resentment. Those are the weeds. They're not bad. They're not mistakes. They're just part of the living, changing ground of the inner landscape, and they too need care. Emotions are not the enemy. Here's the first thing I want you to remember. Emotions are not the enemy. Anger doesn't make you a bad person. Fear doesn't mean you're weak. Desire doesn't mean you're greedy. These are just temporary states passing through a constantly shifting mind. Instead of seeing them as trash to be thrown out, try to see them as little children inside you. When anger rises, don't scream at it. Sit beside it and gently ask, what are you hurting about? You might be surprised, because often underneath that anger is an old wound, a feeling of being left out, a voice never heard, a hope that was quietly broken. Even anger knows how to cry. Someone once asked, I've tried to control my anger, so why does it always come back? The answer, because it has never truly been heard. Anger is like a crying child. If you yell at it, it cries louder. If you ignore it, it acts out. But if you gently pick it up, place a hand on its back, and breathe slowly with it, it begins to soften. Have you ever truly listened to your anger, not analyzed it, not justified it, but just sat quietly with it, like sitting beside a dear friend who's hurting, not to fix them, but simply to be there? When you do that with anger, with sadness, with fear, you're practicing mindfulness and compassion. Not for others, for yourself. A garden needs more than sunshine. A garden cannot survive on sunshine alone. It needs water, nutrients, and sometimes even stormy rains to cleanse the soil. Your mind is the same. We often expect ourselves to always be positive, always happy, always doing better. But your heart doesn't grow through pressure. It grows through understanding. Imagine you're watering a plant. Too much water, it drowns. Too little, it wilts. But if you visit it daily, feel the soil, notice the light, listen to what it needs, you learn its rhythm. The mind, too, has a rhythm. And with gentle attention, not control it, begins to blossom. The mind, too, needs tender care. Each day, take a few moments to come home to yourself. You don't need to sit in strict meditation. Just pause, take a deep breath, and gently ask, "What's alive in me today?" Don't rush to answer. Let the question echo softly, like a wind chime in your heart. You don't need to pull the weeds right away. Many people have a habit of immediately trying to pull out the weeds whenever a negative emotion appears. The moment anger rises, they rush to suppress it. When desire arises, they try to push it away. But this approach doesn't last, because what they're doing isn't pulling the weed, they're just trimming it. And the weeds will grow back, stronger, thicker. To understand the root, you have to observe patiently. Negative emotions often stem from some kind of lack. Sometimes it's a lack of love. Other times a rejection of oneself, or a deep fear of being hurt. If all you do is clean up, you may never discover what truly needs healing. Practice naming your emotions. A simple but powerful practice is to gently name the emotion present. When you feel restless, say silently, "This is anxiety." When you feel angry, anger is here. When you feel disappointed, sadness is visiting. Just name it. Don't analyze. Don't react. This naming creates space between you and the emotion. It reminds you you have anger, but you are not the anger. You are not defined by fleeting emotions. You are the one observing them, like a gardener walking through the garden after the rain, noticing the small weeds sprouting and thinking, I'll come back and tend to this spot. Don't forget the shadowed corners. Many people want to light up their inner garden with sunshine, positive thinking affirmations, constant striving. That's good. But if you forget the shadowed corners, the weeds will quietly take over. Tending to your mind also requires courage to enter the places you've avoided. Maybe it's an old memory, a regret, a trait you've denied in yourself. You don't have to heal everything in a day, but the moment you dare to look, you've already begun. Self-compassion is the most fertile soil. There is a beautiful teaching. Self-compassion isn't indulgence. It's the kind of care deep enough to stop abandoning yourself. You don't need to wait until you're no longer angry to deserve love. You don't need to fix everything before you're allowed to rest. A garden doesn't need to be weed-free to be beautiful. It is beautiful in the very process of being tended. And one of the gentlest acts of care is simply to pause, take a breath, and whisper to yourself, "I'm doing the best I can." When was the last time you said that not to escape? But because deep down, you recognize you haven't given up. Even tired, you're still showing up. And no matter how many weeds there are, you are still the one tending the garden. When you're patient, your emotions begin to trust you. I once observed an old gardener in the countryside. He never rushed to yank out weeds. He studied each plant, knew which was wild grass and which was a tender sprout. Some weeds he left knowing they helped the soil retain moisture. Others he pulled only in the rainy season, not in the heat. He didn't garden to control. He lived with the garden, listened to it. Your mind needs a gardener like that. Your emotions don't need to be erased. They just need to know, you're here, you see me, you won't abandon me again. Slowly they soften. You don't have to command them to disappear. Just be present. Present with your breath. Present with acceptance. Present like a gentle mother stroking the back of a frightened child. The mind is soil. Thoughts are seeds. Actions are water. Every thought you plant is a seed. If you constantly self-criticize, judge, or reject yourself, you're planting barren seeds. Even rich soil can't bloom with the wrong seeds. But when you replace them with seeds of kindness, like, I'm not perfect, but I'm learning to understand myself, or I have worth even when I feel lost, your inner garden starts to shift. Your actions are the water. When you consistently respond with mindfulness, pausing, breathing, embracing your feelings, you're watering the garden with awareness. And over time, you'll see flowers blooming, not loudly, not with fanfare, but quietly, gently. Be patient flowers. Don't bloom when pulled. Some people are in a hurry to heal. They rush to fix everything. Hurry to erase pain. Want their minds to be calm instantly. But flowers don't bloom because we force them. Seeds don't grow because we pull them up. Tending your inner garden is a process. Some days you'll feel peaceful. Other days, tangled again. Don't mistake a weedy day for failure. The garden is still alive, and you're still caring for it. Remember, patience is the gentlest sunshine your heart needs. Don't forget the gardens of others. As you learn to care for your own garden, you begin to see the gardens inside others. You stop judging someone who's angry. You sense they might be hurting. You become gentler with someone anxious. You know what it feels like to be uncertain. You open your heart to those who were once harsh because you remember a time you too reacted out of pain. When you see your own garden, you see theirs. That's when compassion blooms. No forcing, no performing. Just being present without judgment, without trying to change them. Simply offering water through understanding eyes, a kind word, a steady breath. The garden within you can bloom again. Dear friend, I don't know what shape your mind is in today. Maybe it's overgrown with weeds, or maybe small blossoms are beginning to rise. Wherever you are, you're not alone, and your garden still holds the power to come back to life. You don't need to be doing well to find peace. You don't need to be a perfect meditator to deserve calm. You only need to be present. Breathe gently. Walk into your own mind like a gardener stepping into the garden after a rainstorm. No need to fix everything. Just begin the walk. Slowly, quietly, honestly, and one step at a time, the flowers will find their way to bloom. Part 2. Everything is interconnected. Have you ever paused, looked at the shirt you're wearing, and asked, where did this come from? It might seem like a simple question, but if you slow down and look deeply, you'll begin to see an entire world hidden within those threads. A world of connection, quiet but extraordinary. That shirt isn't just fabric sewn together. It is earth. It is rain. It is sunlight. It is the hands of those who planted seeds, harvested cotton, spun threads, dyed colors, wove cloth and stitched seams. It is the truck that carried it down distant highways. It is the person who bought it for you, maybe someone you love, or maybe you yourself, stopping by a crowded store one ordinary afternoon. Every time you wear it, you're wrapping yourself in a chain of causes and conditions. And in every fiber, there is life, the life of so many beings and elements working in harmony to make this one moment possible. No one is an island. A poet once wrote, "No man is an island entire of itself." That truth echoes what the Buddha taught more than 2,500 years ago, the principle of interdependent origination, paticca samuppada. Nothing arises independently. Everything exists because of countless conditions coming together. You don't live alone. You are made of non-you elements. Your body is nourished by food, which comes from soil water, sunlight, farmers' labor, transportation, and preparation. And your breath, it's a gift from the trees. Every time you exhale, you give something back to life. You and I, all of us, we live through each other, because of each other, within each other. Like waves in the ocean, like clouds in a raindrop, like sunlight in a sweet fruit. Seeing the connection. Compassion arises naturally. I once met a middle-aged woman at a retreat in the US. She lived alone, no spouse, no close family. She told me she felt completely disconnected. I didn't answer right away. I simply invited her to look at the bowl of rice in front of her and asked, "Where did this come from?" We sat in silence. Then she slowly said, "From the grain, from the farmer, from the earth, from the water, from the cook." And in that moment, tears filled her eyes. No one is truly alone when they see their place in the web of life. When you realize you are part of this vast, beautiful network, gratitude and compassion arise naturally. You no longer think, "This is my business," and "that is theirs." You begin to understand, if others suffer, you cannot be fully at peace. If the earth is dry, your food cannot grow. If the air is polluted, it doesn't matter how comfortable your house is, you cannot breathe. Seeing interbeing brings softness. You no longer hold on so tightly to anger or pride. You see that everyone is carrying invisible burdens. Everyone needs understanding care and a compassionate gaze. Look, deeper love. More. Imagine you're sitting in a coffee shop. The barista arrives tense and short in her words. You might think, "She's rude." Or you might pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, "I wonder what she's been through today." Maybe she didn't sleep last night because her child was sick. Maybe she's working her third shift in a row. Maybe she's just human, like you, with tired days and tender places. You don't have to know the full story. Just remember, no one acts out without a reason. And in the very moment you open your heart, you plant a seed of compassion, a softer look, a slower breath, a kinder word. Who knows? That might be someone's anchor in the storm. You are living inside a miraculous web. You may not see it, but you are being held in a web of life. Every gesture, every word, every thought has impact. You may not know where it goes or who it touches, but it doesn't disappear. You offer an understanding glance. Someone feels seen. They calm down. They go home and don't shout at their child. That child grows up feeling safer. Someday, that child learns how to listen. And just like that, a ripple from you has quietly blossomed. Likewise, if you lash out in anger, that energy travels into a conversation, into a meal, into someone's day. This isn't about guilt, it's about awareness. You are not separate. You are influencing. You are radiating. A tiny shift can redirect the whole stream. A single drop doesn't make a river, but it can begin one. If you change how you see someone, you change how you respond. If you breathe differently when stressed, you stop that tension from spreading. If you live mindfully, you honor the network you belong to. With small, quiet actions, like listening, being patient, forgiving, expressing thanks, you nourish the shared ground we all walk upon. Every life is a mirror of another. Imagine you are a single thread in a vast tapestry. You're not the center, but without you, the fabric is incomplete. Just like a body made of cells, each part has a role, and none can survive alone. We are not only connected by material things, but also by energy, by awareness. One peaceful person can calm a whole room. One anxious person can stir unease in the air. So remember, your presence matters. Your awareness matters. And when you live with presence, you contribute to the healing of this world. Each non-judging glance, each gentle word, each kind action, no matter how small, is your offering to the collective peace. Because you are not separate. You are a mirror reflecting and receiving. And in that reflection, the world becomes softer because of the light you bring. Part 3. Enlightenment is not a destination, but a return. Have you ever asked yourself, when will I be good enough to feel at peace? Or, how many more years must I practice before I reach enlightenment? These are not wrong questions. They often come from a sincere longing to live better. But sometimes our striving to become someone takes us further from the simplest thing being ourselves. Let me share a story with you. Long ago, there was a young man with a burning desire to find ultimate truth. He was intelligent, had read many sacred texts, listened to countless teachings, but deep inside there was a void nothing could fill. He sensed there was something he hadn't touched, yet a kind of light that ordinary life couldn't provide. One day, he left behind the bustling city, gave up wealth status, and even his closest relationships. With a simple cloth bag and an unshakable determination, he set off on a journey to seek enlightenment. He crossed mountains, waded rivers, wandered through forests and remote villages, asking everyone he met if they knew of a true teacher. Eventually, after years of wandering, he heard of an old Zen master who lived atop a mist-covered mountain, someone spoken of as deeply awakened. Without hesitation, the young man continued on. The path to the mountaintop was rugged, jagged stones, freezing winds, and a deep loneliness surrounded by nature. But he pressed on, because in his heart a single question echoed, "When will I awaken?" At last, after many days, he reached a small temple at the peak. There sat the old master beside a warm cup of tea, eyes as deep as ocean's gentle knowing. The young man bowed deeply and asked, "Master, how much longer until I reach enlightenment?" The teacher didn't answer right away. He simply looked into the young man's eyes, as if peering through the dust of time. Then softly, he asked, "Where are you going?" Surprised, the young man replied honestly, "I'm searching for enlightenment, master." The teacher smiled and offered just 3 words. "Then, stop searching." The young man froze, confused. Why stop now after such a long and painful journey? Wasn't stopping the same as giving up? Was he being asked to abandon his highest goal? He looked into the master's face, searching for answers. But the master said nothing more. He simply sipped his tea in silence, still and vast like the mountain itself. And so the young man stayed. Day after day, he swept leaves, fetched water, cooked meals, tended the garden. No one preached. No one taught doctrines. The master only asked now and then, "Did you notice anything new today?" And that was all. At first, the young man was restless. But over time, something shifted. He began to see. He saw leaves fall without regret, water flow without hesitation. He saw his own mind endlessly chasing illusions, forgetting to simply be here. Years passed. One morning, as sunlight filtered through the trees, he turned to the master and whispered, "I understand now." Enlightenment isn't a place to arrive. It's not waiting at the end of a path. It is a return to myself, to simplicity, to the original clarity of the heart. The master smiled, saying nothing, for in that silence, everything had already been said. Enlightenment is not some hard-won summit. It is a quiet return to what has always been inside. Many chase peace, awakening, or happiness out there in books, in forests, in great achievements. But the more we search outside, the further we stray from ourselves. Like the young seeker in the story, we only begin to understand the spiritual path when we stop striving to reach somewhere and instead listen inwardly. Awakening isn't a distant goal. It's presence in each breath, each step, each honest moment. Only when we stop running toward illusions can we see we were never missing anything. Enlightenment is not elsewhere. It is here. It is now. It is in the fullness of your presence. You know within you, right now there is already a precious jewel. No one gave it to you. It doesn't need certification. No one can take it away. That jewel is called your Buddha nature. This Buddha nature isn't something you have to struggle to create. It doesn't lie somewhere out there waiting for you to climb mountains or cross oceans to find it. It has always been there. But the thing is, it's covered in dust. What kind of dust? The dust of fear, the dust of self-doubt, the dust of craving, the dust of all the labels and beliefs that life has gradually layered onto you until you barely realize you're carrying so many things that aren't truly you. Maybe at some point, you felt unworthy of peace, haven't you? Maybe you've thought, I haven't practiced enough. I'm not good enough, not kind enough, not disciplined enough, so I can't possibly be at peace yet. But dear One Peace isn't a reward for people who qualify. Peace is your natural birthright if you're willing to set down the burden of constantly trying to become something. You don't need to become anyone to deserve peace. You just need to come home, like the moon that's always there in the sky, even when hidden by clouds. It doesn't disappear. Even in the darkest night, its light is still present. Your job isn't to make the moon appear. It's simply to clear the clouds. We often think of spiritual practice as adding more wisdom, more merit, more moral discipline. But the deepest part of the path is actually about letting go. Letting go of what isn't real. Letting go of what the world has stuck onto you. Letting go of old ways of thinking, unhealed wounds, and roles you thought you had to play. Awakening happens when you release enough to look clearly and realize, I was never truly lost. Enlightenment isn't some lofty state. It doesn't mean you stop feeling or that suffering vanishes. Enlightenment simply means being able to say, this is sadness, this is anger, this is fear, and knowing that you are not those emotions. Let me tell you about a woman I once met. She was over 80 years old. Every week she came to the temple, sat quietly under a tree. She never asked for teachings, never asked for blessings. She just sat. One day, I asked her, "Why do you come here?" She smiled gently and said, "I'm not here to do anything. I'm just sitting still to remember who I am." I was moved. She didn't know the term enlightenment or meditation or Buddha nature, but she was doing what many spend a lifetime avoiding returning to herself. And you can too. You don't have to wait until you're ready. You don't have to become someone else first. Just let go a little, soften a little, Wake up a little. Sometimes one mindful breath is already a return. When you drink a glass of water and truly know you're drinking, that's returning. When you listen to someone with full presence, that's returning. When you look at your fear and don't turn away, that's returning. And each time you return like that, the jewel within you shines a little brighter. My friend, enlightenment is not a destination. It's not a reward waiting at the end of the road. Enlightenment is each step you take, each breath you draw, each moment you live sincerely. You don't have to run anywhere. You don't need to go to India to find the path. You don't have to climb a mountain to see the Buddha. When you are still enough to see clearly and kind enough to accept what you find, that jewel has never left you. It has only been waiting for you to pause long enough, to gently brush off the dust. And then you'll see peace isn't somewhere ahead. It's right here, within you, now. You don't need to become the sun. You just need to sit quietly and let your own light shine. Part 4. Letting go of control. Every human being shares a quiet yearning to be in control of their life, to know what's coming, to steer the direction of their journey exactly as they wish. I once felt the same. I believed that if I tried hard enough, stayed disciplined, and stayed strong, life would listen. That if my plans were detailed and smart enough, things would unfold exactly the way I had hoped. But life in its own way taught me something else. The harder I tried to control, the more I suffered. Life isn't a machine with programmable buttons. It's more like a river flowing in its own way. Sometimes calm, sometimes rushing. Sometimes clear, sometimes muddy. And we are simply travelers riding a boat on its current. Have you ever felt exhausted from trying to swim upstream? Trying to control everything, how others feel, how work turns out your children's future, even things that haven't yet happened. Then when life doesn't go as planned, disappointment sets in. When others don't act how you expected, anger follows. When the unexpected crashes and suffering arises. I'm not saying we should give up and stop caring. No. I just want to gently remind you, life doesn't operate according to our personal agenda. It follows the law of cause and condition, subtle, profound, and deeply fair. Think about it. When you plant an orange seed, you wait a whole season for it to bear fruit. You can't plant in the morning and expect harvest by night. You can't command the tree, grow faster. Life is the same. Everything unfolds in its ripening time. Our job is not to command life, but to learn how to move with it. We can't tell the waves what to do, but we can adjust the sail. That is the wisdom of surrender. Like a wise sailor. When the winds change, they don't curse the sky. They adjust the sail. They listen to the wind, read the water, and guide their boat with the least resistance. They don't try to make the sea calm. They learn to keep their balance amidst the waves. In life, too, there are things beyond our control. We can't decide when someone will understand us. We can't choose when illness shows up. We can't stop every twist and turn. But we can choose how we respond. We can soften, let go of clinging, loosen our grip on the illusion of control. Instead, we can pause, breathe deeply, and ask, what can I do right now with mindfulness and compassion? When we stop trying to control everything, something amazing happens. We feel lighter. Lighter in the mind. Lighter in each breath. Lighter as we move through this world. I once met an elderly woman in her 80s, living alone in a small house. She told me, I spent my whole life trying to control everything, my kids, my family, my money. But after losing it all, I finally saw the only thing I ever truly had control over was my attitude. Now I care for just one thing, keeping my heart calm. I sat quietly after hearing that. Her eyes shone like lanterns, even in old age, because she no longer fought life. She had become one with it, like a leaf floating on a stream, like a cloud drifting across the sky, not clinging, not fearing where it would go. Letting go of control isn't easy, but it is the only path to true peace. As long as we need things to happen exactly our way, we are bound. As long as we cling to our ideas of right and wrong, we suffer. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. Letting go means waking up. It means seeing clearly our small ego can't wrap itself around the grand workings of this universe. It means realizing we don't need to be in charge of everything to be at peace. It means learning to sit calmly through the storm and trusting that storms pass. Remember what the Buddha once taught. This is not mine. This is not me. This is not myself. That's not a pessimistic view. It's a key to liberation. When nothing is clung to as mine, we no longer have to control it. We no longer resist the truth of impermanence. I know there is a part in all of us that craves safety, that wants guarantees, that wants to grip the future in our hands. But life in its mysterious wisdom keeps showing us everything is in constant change. And it is within this very impermanence that wisdom and compassion are born. Because only when we realize we can't control everything do we start living mindfully. We begin to value each moment. We start loving others more because we know they too are struggling. Letting go of control isn't a one-day process. It's a path of gentle daily practice. Every day ask yourself, what am I trying so hard to control? If I release this grip just a little, could life feel more spacious? Don't worry if you can't let go all at once. Just noticing your clinging is already the beginning. And one day, when you're ready, you'll see peace doesn't come when everything goes your way. It comes when you no longer need it to. Then you'll understand, perhaps the deepest lesson we can learn in this human life is how to flow with the river while keeping our heart still like a mountain. 5. The mind is the artist of our life. Let me tell you a story. One afternoon, two friends were walking down a quiet country road. They had just left an important meeting when the sky suddenly turned gray. Heavy clouds gathered, and within minutes, a sudden downpour drenched them. Neither of them had an umbrella. No raincoats, no shelter. In an instant, they were soaked from head to toe. The first man immediately frowned, walked faster, and looked irritated as if trying to argue with the sky. He muttered, "Unbelievable. Why now of all times, everything's ruined. My clothes are soaked, the plan's off track. What a miserable day." The second man, though equally wet, had a completely different expression. He looked up at the sky as the raindrops rolled down his cheeks like cool blessings. Then, he smiled. A genuine smile, effortless, unbothered. He whispered to himself, "It's so refreshing. Feels like the sky just gave me a surprise gift. It's been ages since I felt rain like this." One moment, two different experiences. Same rain, two completely different inner worlds. The first man resisted the moment. Everything felt heavy, inconvenient. He saw nothing but frustration. The second man, he didn't resist what was happening. He let himself be soaked. He felt it fully. And because of that, he found freedom within the rain. Sometimes, what causes our suffering isn't the situation, but how we respond to it. The same rain can bring resentment to one person, peace to another. And perhaps the deepest lesson is this: life won't always be convenient. But if we shift our perspective, anything can become a gift. I share this story not to convince you to be optimistic, but to show something more profound. Life doesn't bend to our minds, but our minds color the entire canvas of life. It's your mind that paints the scenery you live in, not the external world. Here's a truth I want you to reflect on: the mind is the artist of your life. You might live in a tiny house, but if your mind is a vast meadow, a boundless sky, each morning feels abundant. On the other hand, you might live in a mansion, but if your mind is a dark, narrow room, no amount of sunshine outside will make you feel free. Mind is the beginning and the end. In Buddhist teachings, there's a profound statement: the mind precedes all things, not circumstances, not other people, your own mind. When you realize this, you stop blaming, you stop running, you stop chasing external changes, hoping for inner peace. Now I know what you might be thinking, but how do I control my mind? Mine is always restless, angry, anxious. I understand. I've been there, and in many ways, I'm still learning. But here's the truth. Transformation doesn't begin with control. It begins with observation. It's like when a child is crying. Instead of getting dragged into the chaos of the cry, you pause and ask gently, why are you crying? What's hurting you? The mind is the same. When you observe it, you're no longer its victim. You become its caretaker. I remember an afternoon during a weekend retreat. The room was silent, with a gentle breeze brushing through the open windows. During a sharing session, a middle-aged woman stepped forward. She sat down, hands clasped tightly, her voice trembling. She said, "I get angry so easily, especially with my loved ones. And after that, I just feel awful. I blame myself constantly." I thought the teacher would talk about how to manage emotions or how to be less reactive, but he didn't. Instead, he gently asked, "When you're angry, do you know you're angry?" She nodded, "Yes, but I can't stop it." The teacher smiled with deep compassion and said, "Then you've already walked half the path." His words silenced the room. They were simple, yet profoundly freeing. He continued, "When you're aware of your anger, that's mindfulness. And mindfulness is the first door to freedom. If you don't recognize it, anger will control you. But when you observe it, it no longer owns you." Many of us nodded in quiet agreement. We've all blamed ourselves for negative emotions. But it turns out, just seeing them clearly, that's where liberation begins. A wise teacher once told me, "You can't stop the wind from blowing, but you don't have to let it carry you away." The mind is the same. You can't stop thoughts from arising, but you can stop them from running your life. Have you ever held on to a comment that hurt you? Thought about it over and over again, day after day? That sentence took seconds to say, but your mind held it for months. So the question isn't, was that person wrong? It's, why am I holding on to it this long? If we don't see the mind clearly, it becomes a storage room for wounds, resentment, insecurity. But if we begin to observe it with kindness, we'll realize sadness isn't who we are. It's just a passing cloud. It comes and goes. We don't have to cling to it. Here's an image I love sharing with those learning to understand their minds. The mind is like a lake. When the wind blows, the surface ripples, but the stillness remains at the bottom. If you only look at the surface, life feels chaotic. But if you look deeper, you'll find unwavering peace. Your thoughts and emotions are the ripples. But there's a deeper place within you, always calm, always present. That's your Buddha nature. And when you begin to live from that place, no storm can shake you. So I want to say this to you from my heart. You don't need to fix the world to find peace. You just need to learn how to see your own mind. When you develop the habit of observing your mind, you'll begin to notice patterns. Oh, every time someone doesn't do what I expect, I get upset. Oh, every time someone compliments others, but not me, I feel hurt. These small realizations are the bricks that build your temple of awareness. Awareness doesn't mean the absence of pain. Awareness means seeing pain without getting lost in it. And that's when you begin to live with inner sovereignty. You stop chasing praise. You're not destroyed by criticism. You no longer let your mind dictate. You learn to listen, to understand, and then gently let go. I know this path isn't easy, but every day, just 5 minutes, sit quietly, breathe, and ask your mind, how are you today? That's already a seed of mindfulness. Be patient. Be gentle with yourself. Remember, no one is born mastering the mind, but anyone can learn. Because yes, the mind is the artist, but you hold the brush. And if today you haven't painted peace, that's okay. Tomorrow, you can begin again. Part 6. No self. There is no fixed me over. 2,500 years ago, the Buddha realized something profoundly liberating. There is no fixed self inside any of us. At first, this idea might sound simple, but to truly see it, to really feel, it requires a deep stillness of mind. Why? Because from the time we're young, we're taught to be someone. We're told this is who you are. This is who you're not. This is who you should become. And so we build up a sense of self and cling to it. But have you noticed much of our suffering comes from trying to defend or protect that identity? When we fail, we say, I'm a failure. When we're rejected, we believe I must be unworthy. When we make mistakes, we label ourselves, I'm a bad person. I remember a beautiful moment during a quiet afternoon meditation. The room was silent, only the sound of wind chimes stirring softly. A student approached the teacher, eyes filled with old pain. She hesitated, then said, Teacher, I've been angry at so many people for years, and I still can't let it go. The teacher didn't scold her. He didn't rush to give advice. He simply looked at her gently and said, You know, you are not your anger. She paused, stunned. Then quietly tears streamed down her face. Maybe it was the first time someone had seen her not through her flaws, but through understanding. Then the teacher added, like a breeze, Anger is just a passing cloud in the sky of your mind. If you don't hold on to it, it will pass. But if you believe you are the cloud, you'll forget the vast clear sky that's always inside you. Sitting beside her, I felt a shift inside me too. For years, I had believed I was my negative emotions, but suddenly, I realized they were only passing states. I was bigger than all of them. You see, if we believe I'm an angry person, then every time we get angry, we stop trying to change. We use that label as an excuse. And if you label someone else, he's selfish, she's careless, you lock them into that box in your mind. There's no space left for compassion or change. I'm not saying we should deny our mistakes, but I am saying you are not your mistakes. You are not your past. You are not what others say you are. Think of a river. It's never the same. Calm this morning, muddy by evening. Full today, low tomorrow. But we still call it river. It's just a name we give to a constant flow. Your mind is the same. It changes, sad now, happy later. Restless this moment, calm the next. If you believe I am anxious, you live in that identity. But if you say, I'm experiencing anxiety right now. There's space to breathe. It's not who you are. It's something passing through. I remember visiting an elderly woman on her deathbed. In a faint whisper, she said, "All my life, I thought I had to be strong. But in the end, all I really wanted was to soften, to be forgiven, to be at peace." You see, the mind can change at any age. So how could there ever be a fixed self? The Buddha taught that all things are impermanent, including our thoughts, emotions, and sense of identity. What we call the self is just a bundle of ever-changing elements: form, feeling, perception, mental formations, consciousness. When we truly see this, we let go, like someone who no longer needs to prove who they are. So if today you feel like a failure, don't tie your entire self-worth to that moment. Just say, "There's a moment of failure in me, and it is past." That's it. And if someone is hurt, you try to see them not as a fixed identity, but as someone also caught in their temporary state. They're not permanently cruel. They too can change just like you. That's why I believe to see no self is to begin loving more deeply, not just others, but yourself. Feeling lighter. I'll leave you with this question to reflect on. If you no longer had to defend that self, how would you live? Maybe you'd live with more ease, more freedom, more compassion for all. Part 7. Everything is impermanent, and that is freedom. Have you noticed? In this life, nothing lasts forever. A storm eventually clears. Even the most breathtaking sunset dissolves into night. A smile from yesterday becomes only a memory today. And even a sorrow that feels like it will crush us for a lifetime eventually fades away, like smoke in the wind. One day, during a small gathering, I sat quietly in the corner, observing. An elderly woman slowly walked toward the teacher. Her face carried the deep lines of time, but her eyes held a weight that was even deeper. She embraced the teacher and began to cry, not with noise, but with a heavy, aching silence. Her trembling voice broke through, "Teacher, when my husband died, I thought my life was over. I didn't think I could go on. But 10 years have passed, and I'm still here, still breathing, still alive. Somehow, time has healed me." The teacher held her hands, his eyes warm, his voice calm and steady, like he was placing a hand on her heart. Nothing lasts forever, not even suffering. I froze. Those words rippled through me like a wave touching an old wound. Suddenly I realized, though I once believed my grief would never leave me, the truth is no feeling lasts forever. Emotions pass like clouds across the sky, like seasons flowing through the years. And the mind, too, can one day become still. We often think impermanence is something sad, that because nothing lasts, we lose, we suffer, we ache. But have you ever looked deeper? Isn't it also true that because nothing is fixed, you have the chance to heal, to let go, to begin again? A wound doesn't bleed forever. A broken heart eventually learns to beat normally again. A memory that once cut deep will soften with time. Why? Because the very nature of life is change. If joy is like the wind, then sorrow is like a passing cloud. Both drift, neither stays forever. And we standing in the middle only need to see we are not the cloud nor the breeze, we are the vast sky behind it all. When you truly see impermanence, you no longer cling so desperately. You no longer panic when something slips away. You smile at a beautiful moment and gently let it go. You cry through a sadness and breathe your way through it. Because you know everything will pass. We suffer, not because things change, but because we try to hold on to what cannot be held. Like trying to trap sunlight in your hands. Like trying to frame a flowing river. Doesn't it sound impossible? Yet that's exactly what we do over and over in our minds. Someone once loved us, but now is turned away. We ache because we wanted their love to stay unchanged. A body once strong grows weaker with age. We grieve because we refuse to accept change. A life once stable suddenly shifts. We suffer because we don't want it to move. But if you can see impermanence as a law of nature, not as anyone's fault, you can lay down so much of the weight you carry. I remember a young man once asked a meditation teacher, "Master, why is it that I can be happy one moment, but with just one small thing, my mind flips and I'm suddenly sad? Am I failing at practice?" The teacher smiled. "Not at all. That's the natural rhythm of the mind. Emotions are impermanent like the weather. Sunny in the morning, rainy at noon, dry by evening. If you stop resisting, you'll feel so much lighter. So if you're hurting, please don't believe your life will always be this way. No pain lasts forever. No storm refuses to end. Just as flowers bloom and fade, just as spring comes and goes, you only need to stand steady and walk through it with awareness. And if you're happy, cherish it, but don't cling. If you try to freeze something that is changing, you will only suffer. Instead, enjoy it in this very moment, then let it pass naturally. Nothing lasts forever. You see, this isn't a lament. It's a doorway into freedom. When you stop clinging, you feel lighter. When you stop expecting things to remain the same, life reveals itself as a natural flow, and your only task is to learn how to move with it peacefully. I once asked a longtime practitioner brother, "What do you think causes the deepest suffering?" He answered, "Believing that things will stay." I nodded. Yes. Whoever believes their loved one will never leave suffers. Whoever believes youth will never fade aches when the first gray hairs appear. Whoever believes success will stay forever collapses when failure comes. But if from the very beginning we understand everything is only temporary, we are not destroyed when it changes. With awareness, you are no longer swept up in the whirlpool of change. You can stand still, even as the world spins. You can feel pain without drowning in suffering. You can lose without despair. You can be sad without being broken. Impermanence doesn't mean rejecting life. Quite the opposite, because life is fragile. We treasure each moment more deeply. A hug, a smile, a cup of tea with a loved one all become infinitely precious when you know tomorrow may not come. So why not live fully right now? My friend, if you are facing loss, don't be afraid. Remember, it isn't leaving because you are not good enough, but simply because everything is changing. And if you are beginning again, don't hesitate. Because if nothing lasts forever, it also means you always have a chance to begin anew. Every morning, the sun rises again. Every breath is a fresh beginning. Every moment is a chance to live with awareness and love. That is the gift impermanence offers us: renewal, healing, transformation, and the freedom to live truthfully with what is here now. So instead of cursing change, thank it. Without impermanence, there would be no rebirth, no healing, no growth, no light after the darkness. And you, like me, are walking this very path, the path of awakening through change, knowing that nothing stays, to love more freely, knowing that everything passes, to rest in peace when it does. Part 8. Difficult emotions are great teachers. I want you to pause for a moment and think about the last time you were truly angry. really angry. Maybe it was because of a careless comment, an unfair action, someone who didn't understand you or who hurt you. How did you respond? Did you lash out? Did you stay silent while boiling on the inside? Or did you blame yourself for even having that emotion at all? That's what we often do. Every time a so-called negative emotion shows up, anger, fear, sadness, shame, we want to push it away. We want to smother it. We want to deal with it. But we forget. Emotions are not enemies. They are teachers. And not every teacher is gentle. I've met many people who come to the temple seeking peace. They say, I just want my mind to be calm. But when I ask, have you ever sat down with your anger? Have you ever asked it what it wants to tell you? They shake their heads. They want the anger gone, not understood. But my friend, emotions don't come to torture you. They come to speak, if you are patient enough to listen. Anger, not just fire, but a cry. Anger can erupt like fire burning fierce, making us say things that wound others and ourselves. But beneath the flames often lies an unhealed wound. A pain that hasn't been acknowledged. A disappointment born from unmet expectations. A cry from within that feels abandoned, misunderstood, or dismissed. A mother scolding her child may not be angry at the child at all, but at her own loneliness, the lack of support from her husband, the feeling of not being heard. A husband slamming a glass in frustration may not just be short-tempered, but a man whose efforts go unrecognized. You see, anger is the outer expression, but the real story lives underneath. It is not simply anger. It is unspoken hurt. If you only suppress it, you silence yourself. If you only want it to vanish without listening, it's like driving away the messenger without reading the letter. And the message will return louder, harsher, more painful each time. Fear. A desire for protection? Have you ever been afraid? Afraid of loss. Afraid of being left behind. Afraid of failure. Afraid of not being enough. Afraid of not being loved. These fears are often judged as weakness, but I don't see them that way. Fear is the voice of the part of you that longs for safety, for comfort, for shelter. It is like a small child, not weak, but in need of love. If you scold it, beat it down, or ignore it, the fear only grows stronger. But if you kneel beside it and whisper, I see you, I'm here, something shifts. The same is true when you sit with your own fear. You'll realize fear doesn't make you weak. Avoiding fear is what truly harms you. Sadness, a doorway into depth. So many people tell me I don't want to feel sad anymore. But sadness is not your enemy. Sadness can be where your soul is quietly healing. It may be the natural response to losing something precious or to feeling a hollow space that nothing else can fill. Don't be ashamed of sadness. And don't rush to bury it beneath forced laughter or endless busyness. If you can sit beside sadness, if you can ask what it wants to teach you, it may become one of your deepest companions. It can teach you letting go. It can teach you gratitude. And it can teach you how to rise again after heartbreak. Shame, the light of humility. Shame, too, is misunderstood. We think of it as purely negative, but shame can be the seed of humility. It shows us when we've done something unkind or careless and pushes us toward making it right. Shame can be the very first light that guides us back to integrity. If we meet shame with mindful awareness, without judgment, without self-hatred, we don't fall into guilt and we don't run away. We simply learn. We make amends, gently and wisely. Meditation is not always sitting cross-legged. You may ask me, so how do I actually sit with my emotions in the right way? I want you to know meditation isn't always about sitting cross-legged in silence. Meditation can be the very moment you're angry but aware of your anger. When you're sad, and instead of pushing it away, you breathe with it. You hold it with mindfulness. Think of emotions like a child knocking at the door. If you slam it shut, the knocking only grows louder. But if you open the door, invite it in, ask what do you want to say, and sit down with it, you begin to understand. And once you understand, the emotion no longer controls you. That is meditation. That is wisdom, born from everyday life. Teachers who wear no robes. Anger, fear, sadness, shame, these emotions don't wear the robes of monks. But I believe they are some of our greatest teachers if we listen. They don't teach from books. They teach from experience. And their greatest lesson is always this: the lesson of who you really are. Who are you when you're angry? Who are you when you're afraid? Who are you when you're sad? Who are you when you feel ashamed after a mistake? And who are you when you have the courage to sit with all of it without judgment, without avoidance, without suppression? Awakening doesn't mean the end of emotions. It means understanding what your emotions are trying to say. So I invite you, when emotions rise, don't rush to brush them off. Sit down, breathe in, breathe out, and gently ask, why are you here? Then listen. You may be surprised to discover that behind every emotion lies a precious message, and behind that message, a doorway into deep healing. Part 9. No need to judge, just be present. I still remember a soft, rainy morning at the old temple. Rain tapped gently on the mossy tiles, the sky draped in a quiet gray. In that stillness, I saw the teacher slowly step out to the veranda where a young disciple sat, huddled, his eyes distant, his face clouded with heaviness. The teacher asked gently, "Why are you sad today, my child?" The disciple sighed. "I can't seem to settle my mind. I can't focus on anything. Maybe it's the rain. The gloomy weather makes me feel heavy inside." The teacher smiled softly, eyes resting on the falling rain. "So you've labeled the rain as bad, as the cause of your unrest." I stood nearby, quietly listening. His words sank into me like a drop of water falling deep into the heart. How many times in life had I done the same, blaming the weather, other people, or circumstances whenever my mind felt unsettled? But the teacher reminded us, the rain is simply rain. The unrest is from within. If we can truly look inward, even the rain can become a bell of mindfulness. You see, this is what we all do. We look at the world through the lens of judgment. Good, bad, right, wrong, lovable, unlovable, me, them, success, failure. And each time we do, our hearts shrink, our minds tighten, and we live in endless reaction. But have you ever stopped to ask yourself, is rain truly bad? Does sadness really need to be pushed away? Do people have to be just like us in order to be right? Or is it that our minds have not yet learned how to be fully present, still enough to see the true nature of life? I recall once walking in the forest after a rain. The leaves still glistened with droplets, the earth damp beneath my feet. Everything was wet, yet everything was fresh and alive. The rain was not bad. It was simply part of nature, like breath, like sunlight, like the evening call of birds. So why do we label the rain as gloomy? Because our minds are so conditioned to labeling. And if we don't recognize that habit, we will never live fully in the present. It's the same with emotions. Each time, sadness, loneliness, disappointment, or even jealousy arises, we rush to call them negative, wrong, unwanted. And instead of listening, we run, we suppress, we blame ourselves. But emotions are not enemies. They are simply waves on the lake of our consciousness. If you don't resist them, if you don't label them, you will see they come and they go as lightly as clouds drifting across the sky. When we let go of the need to judge, the world around us becomes lighter, more open. We begin to live with life instead of fighting against it. The Buddha taught, right understanding is the seeing that is not clouded by judgment. You don't always need to analyze. You don't need to demand an answer to, why am I like this? Or why is that person like that? You only need to be present with full awareness, with a heart that is undefended. Just breathe deeply, slowly, mindfully, and see everything as simply being itself. No right, no wrong, no ranking needed. Have you ever gone through a day without judging anyone, without criticizing yourself, without dividing everything into gain and loss? Try it. Try one day without labels. Don't say I'm a failure. I'm not good enough. They hurt me. I should be better. Instead, simply say, I am sad. They are angry. The rain is falling. And you will see the mind begins to soften, to lighten, to feel freer than ever. Because, my friend, true freedom doesn't come from everything going your way. Freedom comes when you no longer need everything to go your way. When we stop labeling every experience, we finally touch the boundless nature of life. A flower blooms, it doesn't call itself beautiful. The wind blows, it doesn't ask, am I useful? The sun rises and sets, it doesn't need praise or criticism. It simply shines. But we humans spin endlessly in the invisible labels we create. I'm good, you're bad. I'm right, you're wrong. This is worthy, that is worthless. And then we suffer, not because of the world itself, but because of the mind that keeps dividing. My dear friend, if there's one thing I want you to carry with you after hearing this, it's this. You don't need to judge, you only need to be present. When you are fully here in this very moment, adding nothing, subtracting nothing, in that very instant, you touch freedom. And from that presence, from letting go of judgment, all suffering begins to dissolve like morning mist under the rising sun. Part 10. The Noble Eightfold Path, the Compass of the Awakened. On the journey of inner transformation, nothing is more precious than having a compass, something that reminds us where true north lies. Not a tool to point us outward in the world, but one to guide our hearts so we don't get lost among life's countless crossroads. And if you ask me what that compass is, I would smile and say, it is the Noble Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path, 8 right ways of living, is the heart of the Buddha's teaching, the light that illuminates the road for those who wish to awaken. But it is not a set of rigid rules, nor a checklist to memorize. It is a way of life. 8 elements that nurture harmony of body, mind, and spirit in the midst of a turbulent world. You know this already. Life gives us many spiritual crossroads. There are times when we can't tell what's right or wrong. Times when we chase success, wealth, and recognition, only to lose the purity we once had. Times when we think we're on the right track, but we're slowly drifting away from our true selves. That's why the Eightfold Path isn't about becoming a good person by society's standards. It's about living true to your authentic heart. You don't need to please anyone. You just need not betray yourself. Right view is seeing clearly, seeing the true nature of life, impermanent suffering, and non-self. When you truly see that everything arises and passes, that every emotion fades, you stop clinging so tightly and resisting so fiercely. Right intention is thinking rightly. Have you noticed how a single thought can lead you toward peace or drag you into suffering? When your thinking is rooted in compassion and letting go, in understanding, that very thought becomes a seed of well-being. Right speech is speaking rightly. Words are like arrows. They can heal or they can wound. Right speech is refraining from lies, divisive talk, harsh words, and idle chatter. Instead, it's choosing words that bring understanding, peace, and love. Right. Action is acting rightly. It means not killing, not stealing, not engaging in harmful conduct. But more deeply, it means letting your every action spring from clarity, causing no harm to yourself or others. Right livelihood is earning a living rightly, supporting yourself and your family in ways that do not cause suffering. You don't need a prestigious job. What matters is that your work is rooted in honesty, compassion, and does not depend on deception or harm. Right effort is practicing effort rightly. Not effort to achieve something lofty, but effort to let go of the unwholesome, to cultivate the wholesome, to keep your mind steady in all situations. Effort not to be the best, but to return day by day to your true self. Right. Mindfulness is clear awareness of what is happening. Washing dishes, you simply wash. Dishes not replaying yesterday's argument. Listening to someone, you truly listen, not reacting, not judging. Living fully with each moment as it is. Right. Concentration is the stable dwelling of the mind, not shaken, not swept away by distractions. It is meditation, not only sitting with eyes closed, but cultivating an inner strength that is steady, deep, and awake in the middle of life's storms. When these 8 elements are alive together, you no longer live like a leaf, tossed about by the current. You become like a tree, with deep roots standing firm through rain and sun, unmoved by the winds of change, always reaching upward to the sky. I know at first, the Eightfold Path may sound overwhelming. 8 things, I can't remember them all. But don't worry, I don't ask you to memorize. I only ask you to begin with one step, maybe with mindfulness. Live fully with it. Then step by step, you'll discover that the 8 are not separate. They belong together, like the fingers of one hand. Missing one, it is incomplete. The Eightfold Path is not for the perfect. It is for those who sincerely want to live awake in a world full of delusion. You may stumble in mindfulness. You may slip in speech. You may lose heart when effort feels thin. But don't turn back. Every time you choose to continue, even slowly, you plant another light in your life. My friend, in this noisy and shifting world, where hearts are easily shaken and values quickly overturned, the Eightfold Path is a quiet but steady compass. It won't lead you to worldly success, but it will lead you home to a peace that no circumstance can take away. And perhaps that is the greatest success of all a life, with no regret, no pretense, and no loss of direction. Part 11. Silence, the deepest healing. There are moments when the best thing you can do for yourself is nothing at all. No speaking, no thinking, no reacting, just sitting quietly in complete silence. I know it sounds strange, because all our lives we've been told you need to talk it out. You need advice. You need to do something to fix the problem. But have you noticed? Some pain only gets more tangled the more we talk about it. Some feelings get distorted the more we try to explain them. And some wounds can only heal in silence. Have you ever sat alone in the middle of the night? No cars, no voices, Not even the glow of your phone. Just you and your breath. And in that stillness, if you're brave enough not to run away, you'll hear a soft, quiet voice within. Not harsh, not judgmental, not demanding. Just present, like a gentle breeze moving through the mind. That is the voice of your Buddha nature, not from books, not from anyone else, but from you when you are finally still enough to listen. When you stop chasing the noise outside and return to yourself, that is the true homecoming. One of the things I treasure most as I grow older is simply the ability to sit still. Not rushing, not trying to please anyone, not needing to prove anything, just sitting in silence. And I've discovered that in that silence, old knots begin to loosen. Lingering wounds soften, and the biggest questions, the ones no one can answer, suddenly lose their weight. Not because I found the answers, but because I no longer feel the need to. You too don't need to understand everything. You don't need to explain until everyone agrees. You don't need to talk your way into being healed. Some things only need to be breathed with, and that is enough. In Buddhism, silence is not avoidance. It's not repression. Silence is a deep practice. It's pausing to see more clearly. It's holding back from reacting so you can truly understand. It's choosing to stop speaking so that mindfulness can grow. We live in a world that is far too loud. Loud outside and loud inside. Social media news, phone notifications. Not to mention the constant chatter of your own mind. How many voices do you hear in a day? How many opinions about you? How many things you tell yourself? And in all that noise, has any of it truly brought you peace? Or has it only made you more restless? Here is a truth I want you to remember. Silence will not destroy you. Noise will. Because noise is not just outside. It's also the restlessness within desire, resistance, agitation. And the way through it is not to shout louder. It is to stop. Silence yet not cold. Silence yet full of understanding. Silence so you can truly listen. Listen to others without needing to respond. Listen to yourself without needing to defend. And deeper still, listen to what you never hear in daily life. The beat of your heart, the rhythm of your breath, the still space between two thoughts. I remember one quiet afternoon in the temple courtyard when a young student came to the teacher with weary eyes and a heavy voice. "Master, I don't know what to do anymore. I've heard all the advice read, all the books tried every method, and still I'm not at peace." The teacher didn't say much. He just smiled gently and replied, "Then sit down and stop doing anything at all." The student looked surprised. No one had ever told him that before. But he sat under the Bodhi tree, no effort, no analysis, not even trying to get better. Weeks later, he returned. The turmoil was gone from his face. Quietly, he said, "I don't know why, but I feel lighter now." The teacher simply smiled. "You don't need to know, just be present." I sat nearby, listening, and thought to myself, maybe it's in those very moments of doing nothing that the heart returns home. Gently, deeply, because true healing is found in presence and silence. No medicine is stronger than coming back to yourself. No words can heal, like stillness can. Think about it. Trees don't need to speak to grow. The sun doesn't need noise to shine. The moon doesn't argue right or wrong to glow in the sky. Everything lives in silence, and yet it is full of life. So why do we think we need so much noise just to feel alive? A life lived only chasing noise will end in exhaustion, but a life that knows how to stop, how to sit, how to stand steady amid the clamor, that is truly living. Silence is not weakness. silence is courage. Silence is a voice more powerful than words. And sometimes silence is the only voice that reminds you who you really are. So, if today you feel too tired, too heavy with things words cannot express, please stop trying. Turn off your phone. Step outside. Sit under a tree, by a river, or in a quiet corner of your room. And breathe. Just breathe. Just be silent. That's all. And you will see you don't need anything more to heal. Because the deepest healing has always been within you, waiting for the moment you are quiet enough to listen. When you sit quietly by yourself and reflect on everything you've just heard, can you feel a gentle lightness entering your heart? In this fast-paced world, what you need isn't always more. Sometimes it's less. Letting go of expectations. Letting go of control. Letting go of the unnecessary noise so you can return to the stillness within. Because it's in that silence that you begin to hear the voice of wisdom, of compassion, and of your own true self. I won't tell you that the path of awakening is easy, but I believe you are strong enough to begin. Even the smallest step can change the entire direction of your life, and the noble eightfold path, like a steady compass, will always be there to guide you back whenever you feel lost. Thank you for taking the time to listen with an open heart. If today's sharing has brought you value, please remember to like this video, share it with someone who might need a moment of peace, and leave your thoughts in the comments. I truly look forward to reading your reflections. And if you'd like to continue walking this journey of Buddhist wisdom, healing, and awakening, don't forget to subscribe to Buddhism Seeds today. We still have so many meaningful things to explore together.